Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up the review, and I believe this is match week number 6. If I recall, I'm kind of starting to lose track in terms of what the number of match week it is. Usually, this is kind of the case as the season goes along, where I'm starting to lose count in terms of what match week it is. But I believe this is match week number 6. It is the first match week coming back from the international break, and we're going to look at the remaining Saturday night game, looking at some of the late West Coast game, which, yeah, some of these games definitely had some scoring as well. And in the case of one of these games, it was an absolute demolition of a match. So let's begin by talking about the first game, which is Atlanta versus the Columbus Crew. And Henrik Rosheim, his first win in his coaching career with Columbus finally happened in this one. Now, to be fair, if you're a Columbus Crew fan, there's two ways you can read that. One, you're so relieved the fact that you're off this night and you finally get your first win of the season. I'm pretty sure Henrik Rosheim would feel the same case to finally get his first win as the head coach of Columbus Crew. But on the other, you could say that, yeah, this is just Atlanta. I mean, if you aren't able to beat Atlanta, even if this is a game on the road, yeah, there could be some real issue. Now, in the first half, Rossi with the game's first shot, but he hits it right to Hoyos. Champos would then puts it high from long range. Not much dangerous chances really created, despite the fact that Columbus did have a little bit more chances. None of these were really dangerous chances. In the 33rd minute, Alzadi had a shot that was spilled by Schulte, but was not punished. That is very rare. You usually do not see Patrick Schulte spill an easy shot like that. That just kind of shows you how this season has gone for the Columbus Crew. It just doesn't feel like this season has gone right whatsoever for this team. Hoyos would then deny Gomes from long range, but we do head to halftime with the scoreless between both of these teams. It didn't stay scoreless for long because 3 minutes into the second half, Abu Ali, he scored from Arfston and Morea to make it 1-0 in favor of Columbus. I mean, Abu Ali is pretty much the only goal scorer right now for Columbus. It's hard to believe that most of the goal, I think about 90% of the goal that the Columbus Crew scored has come from him. And he loved scoring so much that he did it again just 5 minutes later, and he even did it even better here. Just an absolute banger, definitely in contention for a goal of the week, in my opinion. As he scored from Shambos and Zaswatsky to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. Rossi then looked for a third, but he missed wide in the 58th minute. It was all Columbus. They really took control of this game, and for Atlanta, yeah, it's safe to say that they're back in 2025 form, and that's not a great thing. Consider how bad they were in 2025. The good news, though, they did get one back in the 61st minute as Moranchuk would score here to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. Schulte did make an incredible double save here, denying Elias Baez and Almiron, but unfortunately, Moranchuk was just there to pounce on it on the third time asking. And yeah, just like that, it was 2-1. Columbus, you're thinking Atlanta, maybe? Nope. Instead, literally seconds later, Arfston would score from Herrera and Maria to make it 3-1 in favor of Columbus. And this is pretty much a carbon copy of what we saw in the game between Philly and Charlotte, where how many times I've said this before? When you score a goal, you're always at your most vulnerable. You're always prone to switch off after you score a goal, and that's what happened to Atlanta in this one. They completely switched off after they got a goal back. So much so that they were still announcing the goal. Like the PA announcer was still announcing the previous goal before even the ball hit the back of the net on the other end. So yeah, that just shows you how quick the game has changed from Atlanta. Look like they might have some hope in this one. Now all of a sudden they face a 2-goal deficit. Latte Laugh did look to answer, but he was denied by Schulte before Almiron missed wide from long range. Hoyos would then deny Camacho from close before Picard would head it wide from the corner, as both of these teams were exchanging some chances. But who can get that next crucial goal? Well, Herrera tried to do so, but Hoya says no to him in the 79th minute. Harboon would then miss wide from long range, and then Rossi will put it wide from close as Columbus definitely was pressing for the fourth goal. You just kind of had a sense that the momentum has gone back to the Crew after it seems like this Atlanta team they're definitely going through the motion again late in this game. Now on the third minute stop shot, we then had some coming together. A frustration started to boil, at least for in the Atlanta perspective. And during that sequence, Tata Martino was sent to the stands, so he gets the Marko Mitrovic treatment with him getting ejected from the stands doing that coming together. So, and as the full time whistle have sounded, the stadium was already pretty empty, but whoever is still left in the stands, yeah, there was some loud boos inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's been a regular occurrence. The boo birds has been loud. The frustration has been at an all-time high, if not already beyond broken from this Atlanta United fan base, because it's another loss at home. 3-1 loss to Columbus. Shots in this one: 17 shots for the 8 that Atlanta has, 4 shots on goal for the 7 that Columbus had, 6 shots off target for the 2 that Atlanta has. Both teams had 2 shots out was blocked, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Columbus had. And remember a couple of weeks after them getting that big win against Philly, where it feels like maybe Atlanta is back on the up and up. And I even kind of say that at least, right now they're being inconsistent, which seems like it's an upgrade compared to last season. Yeah. That old saying, one step forward, 2 step back. That's what Atlanta United season has been. It's been 1 step forward, 2 step back for this team. And like I said, again, when you look at this team, you knew that heading into this season, even with the nostalgia signing that they have with bringing back Tata Martino, it's gonna take a while for this to be fixed. I think the only answer you got to say with this team is they just got to completely nuke this team from top to bottom. It is pretty clear that this squad is not working whatsoever from top to bottom, and that's not easy to say because they are locked up a lot of those contracts, especially that $50 million tag. I feel like Atlanta is kind of in that stage similar to what we saw with Toronto a couple of years ago, where all the mistakes and all the bad contract that's been handed out to this team. Now it seems like it has really set the team back in years, and yeah, I feel like that's going to be kind of the case for Atlanta United, where they definitely need a deep rebuild, and it's going to be a while before we might even see them go back to the glory days that we saw. And just because they hired Tata Martino doesn't mean the fact that the glory days would be mean when you're basically playing almost the same team as last season. And yeah, it's also kind of safe to say that not many head coaches would really get this team to even very well. Like if Tata Martino can't even get this team motivated, there's got to be some nuking that has to be done with this roster. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is Chicago and Nashville. So, Nashville, of course, coming into this game unbeaten. They were the last team to be unbeaten in the Eastern Conference. By the end of tonight, they would not be unbeaten anymore. They would actually fall, and now every single team in the Eastern Conference have lost the game, and there's only one team that stands alone in terms of being unbeaten this season by the end of tonight as well. And, I know some people will say, well, I might have jinxed this game again when it turns out to be a low scoring game. Remember, I didn't really say it. I didn't fully say that this was going to be a high scoring game. I resist my temptation on doing so, though early on it maybe might not be the case because just 15 seconds into this game, the fastest goal we've seen so far this season, and one of the fastest we've ever seen in MLS history, is scored by Philip Ziganago. He scored from Bamba and Salacho just 15 seconds in. It's also the fastest goal that the Chicago Fire has ever had in their franchise history, and it also came off a bad turnover from Nashville as well. Yeah, that is something you don't usually see this Nashville team, especially of how red hot they've been in. We then go for a period where not much really happened. Seems like that goal for a while was the only shot of this game. Surge would then miss wide from close. The shots were 2-1 for Chicago 36 minutes in. Cochran would then miss wide from long range before Ziganago would hit one right to Schwalke. Ziganago then had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. Chicago definitely pressing late to try to get another goal before the halftime, but we do head to halftime with the Fire leading 1-0. In the second half, Schwalke denied Bamba from close. He then missed wide from long range not long after. That also came off another bad turnover from Nashville. This was just a very uncharacteristic game from Nashville. And you also kind of wonder, as I said before in the preview, how, that 2-week break that they had, that international break, I just feel like that actually killed the momentum for Nashville. Nashville had so much momentum heading into that international break where, even 2-week break like that, it can definitely kill the momentum of this team, and they're hoping that might not be the case, especially they got a really tough task in the middle of the week in the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Club America. Did I mention the fact that the CONCACAF Champions Cup is back this middle of the week? Great to see that we're seeing pretty much soccer every single day once again involving MLS team. Well, except for today. There's no MLS game that happened today. But in the 65th minute, Surge would hits it right to Brady before Brady absolutely robbed Mukhtar on the free kick. I mean, Mukhtar thought he scored of a wonderful free kick, but Chris Brady just said no. I mean, this was kind of a game that is kind of the reason why I think Chris Brady should legitimately get some discussion, maybe even joining the national team. I mean, I know he hasn't got a lot of looks. I don't know if Pochettino might really trust him to be the number one for this team heading into the World Cup. But consider the disastrous class that we've seen from both Matt Freese and Matt Turner in the friendly between Portugal and Belgium. You gotta at least give Chris Brady maybe a look. Maybe even in those tune-up games, you gotta give him a look, and maybe he might be the guy to do so. Because out of all those three guys who are all MLS goalkeepers, you could argue Chris Brady might be the best one out of those three right now. But as the time winds down, Nashville continued to try to push to get themselves the equalizer. The Fire, they were kind of hanging on a bit. They were hoping that 15-second in goal by Ziganaga was the difference. Brady would then deny Palacios from close before Madrigal would hits it right to Brady. Palacios then puts it wide on the back post in the 5th minute of stoppage time. But yeah, in the end, it's very rare you see a goal in the first minute would stand in the entire game, especially a goal 15 seconds in. But that's exactly what happened in this one, as the Chicago Fire hand Nashville their first loss of the season. And the shots in this one, 9 shots with the 10 that Nashville has, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Chicago has, 1 shots off target for the 3 that Nashville has, 3 shots that was blocked with the 5 that Chicago has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that the Fire has in this game. And what's even more impressive of this win for the Fire is the fact that Nashville didn't really rest their state team. As I'll talk about in this game, where one of these teams participates in the CONCACAF Champions Cup in the middle of the week, they kind of rest their roster for the big clash against the Liga MX side. Nashville didn't really quite do so. We did still see Surge and Mukhtar in this one, and this definitely was probably one of the worst games that they play so far. This whole Nashville attack, I think between this and the game that they had against FC Dallas, arguably the worst game that they played this season. It kind of feels very unrecognizable considering how good they have been week in and week out. And as I said, I do think that international break absolutely killed them momentum. Anytime when you have that of a hot streak and you go 2 weeks without out playing, and with the way that this team is pretty much just playing 3 games in 7 days for the first part of the season, it can throw off that rhythm. And yeah, you can clearly see it that international break has thrown off the rhythm of this team, and they don't have a lot of time to dwell on this and trying to rediscover that form, because again, Club America waits in the distance, and they definitely need to be at their best when they face against Club America. Now, moving on in terms of the next match, it's Houston and the Seattle Sounders. And I gotta say, for the Seattle Sounders, this is a very impressive win because, as I said, unlike Nashville where they didn't rest a lot of players, Seattle did. Seattle did rest most of their roster in this one. It was kind of almost, I wouldn't say a Tacoma Defiance kind of team, but it was kind of borderline in terms of it. But if there's one thing we know about the Seattle Sounders, they are deep from top to bottom. That Tacoma Defiance pipeline to the Sounders is probably right now the strongest. I think between them and RSL when it comes to their MLS Next Pro team, and their players transition very well to the main team. Those are 2 teams that definitely have done the best so far. Maybe even the San Jose Earthquakes, especially the Quakes, have also done a good job when it comes to putting some young talent, especially from guys from the MLS Next Pro into the main team, and has done very well as well. Now, early on in the first half, I believe this is the first time this season we have seen a game that's been delayed because of weather. I don't recall we had a game that was delayed because of weather. I might be wrong, but this game did kick off late because of weather. They had lightning in the area. They didn't warm up until about 15 minutes before the scheduled kickoff, so the game was pushed back to 8 p.m. as a result. But by the time the game did kick off, Bogusz had a chance just 20 seconds in, but he puts that one wide before Bozet missed wide from close in the 4th minute. Dynamo definitely on the front foot early and was pushing for the opener. The first shot for the Sounder did see Bond denied Ferreira from close in the 20th minute, before on the other end, Thomas denied Guillermo, and then Andrade missed wide on the header. Anthony Thomas was huge in this game for the Sounders, because there was a multiple time in this one where the Dynamo had some good chances and Thomas answered it most of the time. In the 31st minute, Negri would miss wide from the corner. There was a shout for a penalty for Houston not given, as the Dynamo continued to press to get the opener. Bogusz tried to do so, but he puts it wide from long range, and then Bozat had a shot that took a deflection and goes wide in the 35th minute. But despite all the pressure that the Dynamo were putting, we hit to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Thomas would deny gear made from close as Houston picked up where they left off, trying to press to get the opening goal. And then there was a huge shout for a penalty for the Sounders not given. Apparently, Muswowski feel like he was brought down by Bond, and I think he has a case. I do think that probably should have been a penalty. I've seen that being called a penalty, but it wasn't called in this play. And then this is also when the audio started to become a bit of a problem. And keep in mind, it was starting to rain really hard, so something tells me maybe the cable in the stadium, especially the audio cable, started to become a bit messed up. So yeah, it was kind of hard to listen to the audio in this game. I probably just kind of put it on mute because yeah, it was kind of unhearable. Up to that point. Bogusz would then hits one right to Thomas in the 65th minute, and just as we thought that maybe this is going to end 0-0 in terms of how this game would win, in the 82nd minute, Seattle would take the lead. As Paul Vrofrov, of course it's Paul Vrofrov that scored. He has scored so many big goals for this team over the year and a half that he's been with the well, no, not more than a year and a half. For the last couple of years with the Sounders. Of course, he pops up here and scored a huge goal to give the Sounders a 1-0 lead. And it was also only the third shot for the Sounders up to this point as well. Linga did look to respond, but his shot was tipped over by Thomas before Andrade would miss wide from close in the second minute stop sign. The Dynamo was definitely pressing hard to try to get the equalizer. The Sounders, and with all hands on deck, trying to preserve 3 points, trying to get a bit of a smash and grab 3 points as well. And that's exactly what they did because they didn't really create a lot of chances this one. It really felt like a smash and grab, but that's exactly what they were able to accomplish. They get the 1-0 win in this one. The shots in this one, only 5 shots compared to 13 that the Dynamo has. 4 shots on goal for the 2 that the Sounders had. No shots off target for the 5 that the Dynamo has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked and possession-wise. 46% possession compared to 54% possession that the Sounders has in this game. And some might say that the Sounders kind of got lucky in this game with the smash and grab. The way I see it is that this is an example of a team that is the reason why I think a lot of team in the West should be fearing this team because if they can still do this, even though they're kind of decimated, I mean, they face a lot of adversity coming into this game. This is the final game of this 5-game road trip, so obviously it's definitely taking a mental toll on this team to not play at home at Lumen Field in front of their fans, even though I know they technically sort of did in that CONCACAF Champions Cup game in Spokane as well, but it's still not the same of them playing at Lumen Field in front of the Seattle faithful. And the fact that they were pretty much a little shorthanded in this one because Brian Schmetzer decided to really focus on that big clash against Tigres, which rightfully so. You want to put your best player against a powerhouse like Tigres as well. But the fact that he still were able to get into this game and get away with all 3 points, that just shows you how dangerous the Sounders team. I would not be surprised if they're going to be rising up the standings and a team to watch for the rest of the season. But for the Houston Dynamo, I mean, I know they have had their struggle against the Seattle Sounders. I mentioned Houston has had a really bad track record against the Sounders, but this is a bad loss. I mean, again, a depleted Sounders team, and especially in a game where they were actually the better team for the most part in this one. How many times we say when you don't put the ball into the back of net, when you're facing against a good team like the Seattle Sounders, you have to bury your chances. Houston didn't. They pay the ultimate price of getting absolutely nothing out of this game. And now we're starting to see the same problem that they had last season as well, where the home form has just not been there for the Houston Dynamo. And that has got to be a concerning factor too, because it's hard to believe how this team for a long time has always been a good home team. And yet, lately their home form has just not been there whatsoever. Now, moving on in terms of the next game. Now we talk about the demolition derby. So, if you would have thought that things were already bad for Orlando City coming into the international break, it just feels like whatever they tried to fix coming out of the international break not only didn't work, but it just feels like it's gotten worse in terms of how things have gone for this Orlando City side. In the first half, Sung was in on goal there, but his shot was deflected wide. But then the 7th minute, Brekalo unfortunately scored an own goal here. He tried to poke that one away, but only puts it into his own net. So just like that, 7 minutes in, LAFC have the 1-0 lead. Angulo did look to answer, but he hits it right to Lariz. But then in the 20th minute, Bouanga would score. Of course he'd score. It's inevitable that Bouanga and Sung was going to combine in the assist and also the goal scoring chart. We've seen this so many times before, but he's scored here from Sung and Ordaz to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC, and Bawanga loves scoring so much, he did it 3 minutes later, as once again he scored from Sung to make it 3-0 in this one, and he loves scoring so much again that he ends up getting a hat trick just 5 minutes later, as once again he scored from Sung to make it 4-0 in this game. So in a blink of an eye, it was 4-0 for LAFC, and this might be the fastest hat trick I've ever seen a player tally. I don't think I've ever seen a player complete a hat trick in a span of just 8 minutes, but that's exactly what happened. And yeah, you just kind of had a sense that, boy, the route is definitely on in this one. And you also kind of had a sense, will LAFC maybe be the first team to score more than 7 goals? Because so far, the 7 goal has kind of been the plateau when it comes to a team scoring. I mean, I've seen a couple of times where teams could have scored 8 or 9 goals in a game, but this kind of felt like it was that case because Orlando, not only they have not showed up in this one, but whatever they try to fix during the international break, it has not worked whatsoever. I mean, they're just getting blown apart in the first 30 minutes in this one. And it could have been 5-0 in the 29th minute when Ordaz tried to curl one in and it just missed wide. But in the 39th minute, it was 5-0 for LAFC as Palencia would score from Song and Bawanga to make it 5-0 in favor of LAFC. That's a very weird combination. Can you imagine a defender scoring and you're getting assist by your playmaker and goal scorer? But that's just kind of how the game went for LAFC. It was 5-0 up to this point, and I even wrote that despite I know everybody will talk about Bawanga 8 minute hat trick, you gotta give some prop as well. 4 assists in just 19 minutes. I know no assist is usually not as a big of an accomplishment as we talk about goals as well, but I argue it's just as important. I mean, I always say that when you get a hat trick of assists, it's just as impressive of getting a hat trick of goal as well. But to get 4 assists and to do it in just 19 minutes, my word, this was just it was man against boys in terms of how things were going in the first half. And it could have been 6-0 as Boyd looked to try to make it 6, but he hits it right to Crapo. And we do head to halftime with LAFC leading 5-0 in this one. At this point, I kind of didn't really bother even tuning into this one. I actually did at least watch the highlights in the second half because yeah, I knew this was long over. I mean, it was over after 28 minutes in this game. In the second half, Tafari would head it over from the corner before Lloris denied Tuffy of a rare chance for Orlando City. Song would then put it wide after Orlando turned the ball over, which is kind of a main theme throughout this game. And as much as I know Song would be very happy that he's got the 4 assists, deep down he wants to go. Like that would really satisfy him, and he was pushing hard to try to do so. Ordaz would then miss wide from close. Ordaz was another player that was desperately trying to score the goal as well. And he had another chance in the 62nd minute if it wasn't for Crapo denying him there as well. No mercy was shown by LAFC. Like they really wanted to run up the score in this one and won that 6 goal. And they got it in the 70th minute as Tyler Boyd would score from Schaffelberg and Martinez to make it 6-0 in favor of LAFC up to this point. Ojeda did try to respond, but he hits it right to Crapo before Abovasi puts it wide there wouldn't count it because the flag went up. Angulo would then hits it right to Lloris. LAFC did kind of let off a little bit, at least in the last 10 minutes. Orlando did start to get more of the chances, but yeah, it was a lost cause up to this point. 6-0 is the final score in this one. Shots in this one, 18 shots with the 13 that Orlando has. So on paper, it is very even. But a lot of the shots that Orlando City has was late in this game. That was kind of what I call garbage time stat padding that Orlando City was doing, and yet despite that, they still weren't able to put one past Lloris in this one. Both team had 7 shots on goal, 5 shots off target with the 4 that Orlando City has, 3 shots on blocked with the 5 that OAFC had, and possession-wise, 45% possession compared to 55% possession that Orlando City has in this game. So this really felt like a classic example of just LAFC being probably at their best in this one. This is by far the best that they've looked so far this season, and a combination of Orlando City. I mean, if you would have thought that this team has hit rock bottom, they're drilling to bedrock level right now. It is just an all-time low right now for this franchise. I mean, and that's saying something considering they have had bad season, especially in their first 5 seasons being relatively miserable. But this is getting out of hand. 23 goals they have conceded so far this season. 23. We have only played 6 games in the season. They're on verge of conceding 100 goals this season. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And like I said, I mean, for this team, it just feels like they're still in that free fall that they suffer in 2025. This games into the season of how bad they have looked. It's not by mistake whatsoever. It all comes back to last season with the absolute free fall that they have. In fact, they mentioned the fact since May of last season they have only won 2 games since May of last season. So they have almost gone in the entire calendar year with only 2 wins this season. It's a really dark time right now for Orlando City, and I don't know if a new head coach, and I know obviously there's a lot of excitement for Antoine Griezmann coming in to this team in the summer. I don't think he's going to fix anything. I really don't. The issue of this team is not just on the attack; it's on the defense. I mean, it's inexcusable to concede this many goals to begin the season. And I know some might say that it's still early in the season, but I think 6 games in, if you conceded that many goals, alarm bell has to be ringing. And I think that alarm bell might even have been broken for Orlando City of how bad things have gone. So yeah, it's bad right now. It's gotten so bad that I might even have to do a video and maybe do a deep dive down of this Orlando City side and maybe even give Orlando City fans a little bit of a therapy session of how things could improve to this team because it doesn't seem like it's going to improve sooner than later. But that being said, now moving on, because I'm now going to switch the board manually like I did yesterday because no need to stop the video. You can just change the board manually. And now let's talk about the 7:30 starts. So these are the West Coast game that happened on Saturday. There was three of them that is, although none of this actually finished exactly on the same time. Oh, this board just kind of fell down here. So let me just do it again. So that's one of the problem of doing this manually. Don't really want to secure the board cleanly there on the hook. But anyway, now moving on into the 7:30 start. Oh god, this thing just does not want to stay. Let me just make sure that it does stay this time. Is it gonna stay this time? Yes. Okay. Now, hopefully it'll stay. Anyway, let's talk about the next game and starting with these triple header of 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. We'll start off with Vancouver and the Portland Timbers. So the Portland Timbers, they look like they're on their way of a big victory against the Vancouver Whitecaps, cause one of the bigger upset we have seen so far this season. And then they hit the self-destruction button, and they went back to 2020 Portland Timbers form late in this game. And when you go back to 2020 Portland Timbers form, when they pretty much hit the self-destruction button of almost every single game of blowing leads left, right, and center, that usually doesn't mean it's going to end well for this Timber side. Early on in the first half, and in fact, it didn't start well for the Timbers 7 minutes in, as Ocampo would score from Takaoka to make it 1-0 in favor of Vancouver. So anytime when a goalkeeper gets an assist, especially getting a primary assist, you know it's come from a Route 1 ball, and that's exactly what happened here. Though it also doesn't help the fact that Pantemis came off his lines, and yeah, he completely missed it. And when you're a goalkeeper, you come off your line, you missed it, yeah, you're going to get score on more times or not. So yeah, 1-0 in favor of Vancouver up to this point. White would then look for the answer, but he looked to get another, that is, but he puts it over. It's been all Vancouver for the most part up to this point. They were pressing to get another. Pantemis would then deny Sabali from close before Takaoka denied Anthony, as that was the Timbers' first shot of the game. Muller would then miss one from close. The shots were free for Vancouver up to this point, but then the 36th minute, the Timbers got the equalizer. It's Mosquera, the one that gets the tying goal as well for the Portland Timbers. Anthony did look for another, but he puts that one over. And then Takaoka denied Kelsey from close range. And how many times we said goals change game, and it definitely changed this game. I mean, for the most part, in the first 30 minutes, Vancouver was in control, but now all of a sudden, the Portland Timbers, they're showing some fight, trying to get themselves the lead before halftime. And they do, as in the 42nd minute, DaCosta would score from Mosquera to give the Timbers a 2-1 lead, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. A team like the Portland Timbers, a team that always struggle against Vancouver and has been kind of been the whipping boys when they face against Vancouver in the last couple of meeting. Now all of a sudden they might pull off the shock at BC Place in this one. In the second half, Berhalter would have a shot that took a deflection and goes wide before White would head it right to Pantemis. Vancouver on the front foot again, trying to get themselves the equalizer. Pantemis would deny Sabi from close before Caicedo would hit it right to Pantemis in the 76th minute. I do think that as the time winds down, despite the fact that Vancouver were still getting some chances, none of these were really dangerous chances. And I thought maybe the Timbers, for once, may be able to see this game out, right? Well, no, not exactly. And I kind of apologize to Timbers fan that I wrote that because that feels like a complete curse. Because in the 89th minute, a penalty was given to the Whitecaps as Anthony handballed that one into the box. So that allowed Brian White a chance to bury this one from the penalty spot, and he does exactly that. I believe Muller was off the pitch up to this point, so that's why White took the penalty. So yeah, just like that, it was tied up at 2 apiece, and then in the 5th minute on stoppage time, it looked like maybe this game was going to end just 2 apiece. Sebastian Berhalter would make it 3-2 in this one, and that's when the meltdown complete once again for the Portland Timbers, going back to 2020, form of them just hitting the self-destruction button over and over again late in games and giving up late goals like candy. And this was one that, while it was a good goal from Sebastian Berhalter, it was kind of his trademark long-range effort. Where was the closing down there? Like, you got to close now. Now, probably one of the most dangerous long-range goal scorer in the league, but also one that, even without the closing down, that is one that Pantemis should save. I mean, Pantemis had made some big save from this one. This was not really hit like toward the corner. This was one where Pantemis actually got a hand to it, and I really think he should have done much better in terms of it, but he doesn't. That gives the Whitecaps the lead. Caicedo almost made it 4, but he pushed this one wide. But in the end, the Vancouver Whitecaps, what a comeback it is from them. Looked like they were going to get absolutely nothing out of this game. Looks like they were staring down second straight loss to their season, which is something that is unheard of for Jasper Sorensen's side. But they get the big comeback win to win 3-2 in this one. The shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 9 that the Timbers had, 4 shots on goal compared to 9 that Vancouver had, 6 shots off target compared to 1 that the Timbers had, 4 shots on block compared to 7 that Vancouver has, and possession-wise, 60% possession. Can't speak for a second there, compared to 40% possession that the Portland Timbers has in this game. And, I always say every single week with all these losses that's mounting and with this winless run continue, with them still have yet to win their game since their opener against the Columbus Crew, that seed is getting hotter and hotter every single week. And I think it's kind of feel like it's a matter of time before Phil Neville is getting let go. I wouldn't even be surprised on Monday if I hear the announcement that they have decided to let go of Phil Neville, because the writing is on the wall in this team. There is really no way back for Phil Neville, especially of how things have gone to begin the season. And you can also kind of see that it seems like the players are not playing for him anymore. And when that, of course, happened, that is a classic example of a head coach or a manager losing the dressing room, as they say they're over the pond in the UK, and it feels like that's kind of what it is right now. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. Minnesota and the Galaxy. So in typical Minnesota fashion, whenever they win a close game, they have to make it hard on themselves. I mean, it's almost like a given that if it's a close game, especially on the road, they have to go row Heathville. They have to make me stress and try to give me a heart attack trying to close out game. But at least this time, they were able to do so. Which again, I just feel like one day this team will actually be able to close out game without actually just giving their opposition as many chances as possible to put the ball in the back of the net and as many chances to try to blow games. And this is not even just a problem going back to Aaron Ramsey. This is a problem going back to Adrian Heath as well. There's a reason why I invented that phrase and that theme of Row Heath mode, because one day I will see Minnesota United able to win a one-goal game without going full row heat mode and trying to scare me late in the game. But unfortunately, this was not the game to do so. They had to hold on for dear life late in this one. In the first half, Peck with the game's first shot, but he missed wide. And as expected, the Galaxy had most of the possession. The Loons were kind of going back to their old way of sitting deep early. And slow start has been a really common theme for this team. This has got to be a thing that they got to fix. I mean, I know it's not easy to fix, but I feel like for Cam Knowles, he's got to do something to try to get his team from the get-go and start on time. There's just way too many times this season where this team has not started on time, both at home and on the road, and this was another example of it. Peck then hits one right to counter. Diaz almost scored an own goal there, but counter was able to gather this one. 20 minutes in, Minnesota has still yet to register a shot, so that slow start can continue. It does get a little bit better, at least for for this team. 25 minutes in, Diaz would head sent right to Marcinkowski, as that was the Minnesota first shot of the game. Calendar would then deny Peck from close range. For the most part, it's still Galaxy, but again, the problem with the Galaxy this season, and the thing that has really just pulled Galaxy fan hair out, is the fact that they always tend to get into these good position, and they always don't put away their chances. There's nobody on this team that can consistently show that clinical finishing to put away their chances, because if they were able to do so, this team would not have just one win to show for it to begin the season. Sean Kalai would then hits it right to Marcinkowski in the 38th minute, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. It didn't say scoreless for long, though, because in the 52nd minute, Minnesota would take the lead as Anthony Marcanic would score from Pereira and Sean Kalai, and for once, Marcanic didn't score from a header in the back post. That was kind of the theme we saw last season. He started to score goals more with his feet, so that's definitely an encouragement. But yeah, he scored here to make it 1-0 for Minnesota, and that also come off just an absolute dime from Joaquin Pereira. This is something we have not seen enough this season for Joaquin Pereira. It's been kind of a disappointing start to the season for a guy that has really should be the talisman for this team, but great to see that he showed that ability in this moment. And yeah, just like that, Minnesota has the 1-0 lead, but that lead only lasted 5 minutes because Marco Royce would respond to the 57th minute. Counter did make a big save here on Royce originally, but unfortunately Royce was right there in the right place to slot that one home. But the good news for Minnesota, they would retake the lead just 11 minutes later as Calvin Yoboa would score from Sean Kalai to make it 2-1 in favor of Minnesota, and that was criminal defending from the Galaxy perspective. I mean, I know that was a pretty good move there that Sean Kalai has. He kind of went beast mode there, but there was 5 defender in the box when the ball puts into the back of the net, and Yoboa gets there first. That is inexcusable defending. You cannot have 5 defender in your 6-yard box and you let the attacker get there first. That's almost classic Galaxy defending in a nutshell, and they pay the price 2-1 now in favor of Minnesota. And I even wrote now, let's see how long this lead will last for the Loons, because if there's a common theme that I've also seen the Loons this season is that every time they take the lead, it doesn't usually last relatively long. In the 76th minute, Klaus did look to answer, but he puts it over onto the roof of the net before he puts it high from close range. The Loons were definitely starting to be on the ropes again. Again, this is when I started to see them being on row heap mode. But the good news is they're playing the Galaxy. Again, the Galaxy, they just can't finish, even if their life depends on it. And that included in the 81st minute when there was a scramble in the box. The Galaxy had 5 or 6 chances to bury that one from the loose ball in the box, and none of the time they were able to do so. In fact, one of them actually, one of the Galaxy player hit his own teammate as well. I mean, that moment just kind of sums up the Galaxy this season, especially with their finishing. Their finishing has been absolutely woeful for the most part this season. Longwane was in on goal, but he missed wide in the 83rd minute, because that's kind of how it is for Bongi Longwane. He's just completely snake bitten going back to last season. Tommy then puts it high from long range in the 84th minute before we have Sorello hits it right to counter in the first minute of stoppage time. Loons were in row heap mode. They were hanging on for dear life, hoping that this 8 minutes of stoppage time would end relatively soon. And the good news is it did eventually end. They do hold on to win 2-1 in this one. Like I said, one day, just one day, I would see this team finally not have to make me sweat bullets to hold on to get all free points. And as I said, fortunately, this was not the game that was the case. Shots in this one, 20 shots for the 8 that Minnesota had, 8 shots on goal for the 3 that Minnesota has, 4 shots off target for the 2 that Minnesota had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 8 that the Galaxy had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And like I said, on paper, everything looked good for the Galaxy in this one. They weren't a better team against Minnesota in this one. I feel maybe Minnesota kind of got a little bit fortunate that they got all 3 points out of this game, but at the end of the day, as Galaxy fans have seen this team perform, it doesn't really matter if they're the better team at the end of the day. It also doesn't matter the fact that they have won the XG battle. What matters at the end of the day is the scoreline, and what also matters is the fact that, as I said, the story of this season, besides their defense not being very good, but I mean that's just a tale as old as time when we talk about the LA Galaxy itself. But really, the story of this season is the finishing has just not been there for this team, and it's incredibly frustrating to see. And I know some people will blame Greg Vanny on this. I mean, Greg Vanny can only do so much in terms of getting this team in good position, which he did pretty well for the most part. But at some point, some of these attacking players they need to be better in terms of finishing, and it's not like they have bad players as well. I mean, guys like Painto and even Joe Clausen in some extent, these are some quality players that can put the ball in the back of the net. But right now, all three of these guys are just completely snake bin, and as a result, this is what we see with the LA Galaxy nowadays, and why a lot of Galaxy fans are incredibly frustrating. The fact that it feels like it's deja vu all over again compared to last season, off to a really slow start to begin the season. Now, moving on into the last game on this board. So I actually put this as the last game on this board, and the last game I'll talk about in terms of this match week. Not just because of the fact that this was the game that finished the latest out of all the game, and the reason why it's the case is not because of the fact that we had a lot of stoppage time in this game. It's because we had a sprinkler issue at PayPal Park in this game that just refused to turn off. Some MLS After Dark kind of shenanigans that we saw in this one. But even though this game was the last one to finish, it really doesn't matter because yeah, this game was over after 34 minutes. I mean, this game was pretty much over in the first half, and this was probably one of the worst performance that San Diego have put. And in many ways, I would say San Diego kind of got a little taste of their own medicine with the way that what happened when their opposition punched them in the mouth from the beginning, because that's exactly what the Quakes did in this one. Now, early on in the first half, the starting 11 music was still playing, even though the game had started, so that was kind of weird to see. I don't think I haven't seen that happen very often. They eventually did turn it off as well, but by the time it did happen, Judd would have the first shot of the game, but he hits it right to Furry before Buddha would hit it wide from close in the 5th minute. And like I said, the Quakes, they were on the front foot. This has been a very common feat for the Quakes this season of being on the front foot, and this is also something that Bruce Arena has drilled to this team throughout the season, where they have to be on the front foot. They have to be the protagonist, whether they're at home or on the road, because at the end of the day, it is always important to start on time in the game. I don't care if you're facing against a good opponent or you're facing against a bad opponent. If you do not start on times, more times or not, you're going to be behind the eight ball, and that this is also why the Quakes have been so good this season. It's not because of how great, not just because how great their defense is that has really kind of shocked me in many ways, but it's the fact that they always start on time in game. They always force their opponent to be behind the eight ball, and it's not very easy to do so against San Diego, because San Diego are usually the one that puts you behind the eight ball. But the Quakes, they took the initiative. It looked like they were coming to play in this one early in this game. Though Ingvarsson did have the first chance for San Diego, but he hits it right to Danielle. But then the 13th minute, the Quakes would get the opening goal as Nico Jacaris. He scored an absolute banger from Tango. I have no idea how he was able to score that one. That was an absolute rocket in the near post. Some might say that maybe Furry should have done better, but that was just one of those where from the near post, especially with a top end near post shot, something you usually never see players able to execute. I mean, that's one that even I don't think the goalkeeper would have anything to do to try to save that, even if it's a near post shot. But yeah, he scored from Judd here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. Definitely in contention for goal of the week from Jacaris' goal. I mean, Jacaris had a monster game in this one for the Quakes. Judd would then try to look for another, but he missed wide. Preston Judd would want to have that one back. I mean, that was not a great miss from him. And to be fair, even though I know he ends up on the score sheet, it wasn't really the best game for Preston Judd. He was missing a lot of chances in this one. But that being said, that also kind of came off a bad turnover from the Quakes. One of the reason why the Quakes were definitely starting on time and were on the front foot is they're giving San Diego a taste of their own medicine in terms of turning the ball over. San Diego always tends to be a team that likes to turn teams all over and trying to win back position to keep that position and play in their style. But the Quakes basically said, no. We're going to give you a taste of their own medicine. We're now going to try to press high at the pitch. And San Diego, I mean, I have seen before where they have played out of the back when teams try to press them, and for the most part, they've done a good job. They did not do a good job whatsoever in this game. It was pretty sloppy of how they trying to play out of the back, and more times than not, they just play right into the pressure of the Quakes, and the Quakes take full advantage more times than not because of it. Judd would then put it way high from long range in the 27th minute, but then a penalty was given to the Quakes as Dua brought down Judd in the box there. Actually, it wasn't Judd that he brought there. It was actually Jamar Ricketts, the one that was brought down in the box. They did go to VAR to see whether or not if that challenge on Dua was considered denial of goal score opportunity. VAR says yes. So not only the Quakes got a penalty, they're now up a man as Dua would get his marching order. Second time this season that Dua has been sent off. He got sent off in the game against Toluca in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and now for the first time in league play, he's been sent off in this one. So that gives a chance for Jacarius to bury it to make it 2-0, and he does exactly that to make it 2-0 in this one. LaRue would then went beast mode here, but he couldn't put that one on target. There was a shout for a penalty for the Quakes not given. LaRue puts it high from long range in the 37th minute. I mean, it was all Quakes up to this point. They were not letting off the Fraudo in this game whatsoever. And in the third minute stoppage time, Preston Judd finally got a goal. And he deserved it. I mean, he's been trying hard to score, and he finally did it here from LaRue and Ricketts to make it 3-0 in this game, and that will be the scoreline heading into halftime. In the second half, there was a bit of a delay. Like I said, the sprinkler system on the corner flag, it just refused to turn off. And by the time they did figure it out, they still had to try to smoothen the pitch because that part of the pitch must be very waterlogged because of the way the sprinkler system were not turning off. So yeah, by the time the second half kicked off, I think the halftime was like 30 minutes in this one. By the time the second half kicked off, it was already 9 o'clock in this game. This game didn't finish until just about 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Ricketts would then puts it high from long range in the 51st minute before Buddha would hits it right to Furry. Judd would then puts it wide despite being wide open in the box. Like I said, even though he got his goal in this one, it was not a great game when it comes to his finishing ability. Hopefully that's not a theme with Preston Judd. He usually has been very good when it comes to his finishing. And I even wrote if he would have been better with his finishing, he could have had a hat trick in this one. And even though I know the game ended in a 3-0 scoreline, this could have been a lot worse. This could have easily been 5 or 6-0 in favor of the San Jose Earthquakes with how dominant they look throughout this game. Jacaris was then looking for the Hattie, but he was denied by Furry, and then I move on to the third minute stoppage time because I kind of stopped watching this game knowing that this game was all but done. Harks would then hits it right to Furry by the time I did turn it on, and yeah, in the end, the Quakes a convincing 3-0 win. You could maybe even say a statement win as well. And remember how I said throughout them going through this gauntlet with them playing some of the best team in the league like Seattle, San Diego, and Vancouver, and this will be a good test to see whether or not if this team is for real or not. I think it's safe to say that not only they have passed that test, but I think that you can now legitimately say that this team is definitely a contender as well. Shots in this one, 25 shots compared to 6 that San Diego has. 1 shots on goal for the 9 that the Quakes had. 8 shots off target for the 1 that San Diego had. 6 shots that was blocked for the 4 that San Diego has. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession. By the way, with this win, the Quakes are now 5-1 to start the season. That's the best start to the season since the 2020 or 2012 season, that is, when they start 7-1-1 to begin the year. That was the year that they won the Supporters Shield. And I'm not saying that this team is going to win the Supporters Shield. I would be shocked if this team is going to win the Supporters Shield. But then again, I say I was shocked the fact that this team have only conceded 1 goal so far this season. I mean, it is hard to believe the fact that in the season they've gone almost 300 minutes without conceding a goal before finally did against Seattle, and it was kind of unfortunate because that was the only goal that they conceded. That was the only loss so far in the blemish that they had. But now they're about to go 300 plus minutes or close to that, going back to the last goal that they conceded against the Sounders. Whatever Bruce Arena is doing with this defense, whatever where he's been doing the wizardry of turning all these domestic big talent defender and all these young players to just being a superstar kind of team, similar to what we saw doing his time with the New England Revolution a couple of years ago. I mean, it's incredible. It is absolutely incredible to see, and I'm actually really happy to see that happen because it's not very often I say that I'm just for once being very very proud of rooting for this team. It's been a long time since I've been happy to be a San Jose Quakes fan, and I think other Quakes fans like myself deserve to finally have this happiness because of all the years of frustration and all the rants I've done over the years about this team. Finally see them having success. And I don't want to get too carried away because I always have that golden rule where I never really want to be too optimistic with this team because I've seen this before time and time again. It's what the hopes that kills you with this team. But I do genuinely believe that something special is building with this team, and that, like I said, that second year Bruce Arena injection, we saw something similar to what he did with New England, winning the supporter show and getting that record breaking point up to that point. It may happen with this team as well. Now, does that mean that it resort in MLS Cup? That, of course, is to be determined. But for San Diego, obviously, I know they're still in a good shape, but this is now 3 games without a win, and I think if you're San Diego, the concern I think out of this 3 game winless run that they've had, their defense have not been great. And the reason why their defense hasn't been great is they're not been great playing out of the back. I mentioned that they were being very sloppy playing out of the back. It was the same case against RSL as well. There was too many times in that game against RSL just 2 weeks ago of them playing out of the back and do it wrong as well. That is the danger when you play out of the back. If you don't do it well and you do it sloppily, you're going to get paid more times than not. And once again, San Diego got paid in a big way, and now they're going to have to try to sort that out. Obviously, I don't think they're going to change their identity. This is the identity of San Diego. This is the identity that Mikey Veras want to do. But if this is the identity they need to stick with, they need to be better when it comes to the sloppy play that they have at the back. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the review of all of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games, and if there's any other comments you have in terms of all these games, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys.